Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Heir's Lair. I'm your host, Jonathan Taylor. As of the time of this video's production, my book or my work in progress, the manuscript of my work in progress or WIP, returned from my editor, and I've been working on getting the changes the editor suggested implemented. However, due to personal life reasons, it's been a little bit slow going. So I thought I would motivate myself a little bit by going through the uh, writing Q hashtag on Twitter and answering some of the questions that people have been posing under it. And yes, I'm still calling it Twitter because fuck Elon Musk. Okay. I'm not gonna list all the reasons why he's bad or all the reasons I don't support him. It's just enough to say fuck Elon Musk. It's still called Twitter. Anyway, with that personal disclaimer aside, I have my laptop here. I'm gonna put 20 minutes on its timer, and get started. But I will say that if a question has has some bigger has some bigger text or more context to it that I would need to go through in order to answer it, then I will then I'll just skip over it because you really don't need need that in the video. Anyway, now that I've clarified that, let's start. 20 minutes. First up, a question from Tori, aka Tori Goggin, who says, which element do you most associate with your MC? Well, Elizabeth is water, Juliana is air, and when it comes to earth and fire, I kind of vacillate between between Marv and Victor. I'm gonna say Victor is Earth because he does have not necessarily that more that that impression of being more grounded, but he does have that impression of being of being steady, of going at going at his own rate, of being more unyielding. Whereas Martha does kind of have that property of being perhaps a little bit more reactive, a little bit more volatile. So yeah. Okay. Oh, there's also the option of ice. Here in this question, and I think ice might actually fit. Ice might actually fit Elizabeth a little bit more, but then again, I'm not really fond of that particular division. But anyway, so if you accept the division, then she's ice. If you don't, then she's water. Okay, moving on. From Et Daram Nahal, what advice would you give to a new offer? Well, the advice I would give is make a routine out of it. Like make sure you keep going at a at a steady pace. What exactly that steady pace is up to you, but find that way of going that that you find interesting and that you find simplest or most reliable, most satisfying to follow, and go through it. Daram's advice for the record is write something authentic, unique, and real. Don't let someone dictate to you what you can write. It's your story, your expression, and your work of art. That's very wholesome, very idealistic, if I may say so myself. But still, it's worth discussing. Now, going on, another question from Daram Nahal. Which character inspires you in your story? Well, I think it's safe to say that Martha is that for me, because she is very much written to be a kind of idealistic chivalrous persona, and whenever I try to write her, I do try to make sure I am as authentic as possible to that ideal of chivalry that she is that she is supposed to represent, and it is one that I find quite interesting IRL, even if I have my points of contention against it. Points of contention, which, fun fact, she will actually confront herself at some point throughout this series. But more on that when the time comes. Next up from Hendrik Schroman, or at Hendrik Schrom 11. Okay, that's weird. Who is your smartest character? Well, I already have a whole video on how to write intelligent characters, so I know the question isn't exactly as clean cut as some might think. I will say that, but I do have some answers available. In terms of emotional intelligence, I think as of right now that might be Olivier. In terms of problem-solving intelligence, that could be either Brigadier Marshal Dobrano, or Major General Perosa, also a potential answer. Or if we're going from the younger generations, I can quite confidently say that someone like Elizabeth or someone like Beatrice would more aptly fit that description. If we're talking about other forms of intelligence, I can't really answer that now. But I know that I know those characters are out there. I might actually have them give them roles in my story. I'll think about that when that part of their role will become necessary. Next up from Trope Terrain, under the @Trope Terrain. How similar / different are your characters compared to each other? Okay, so I think a better way to word this question would be how varied is your cast, and to that end, I have to say that there is plenty of variation within my cast, even though I don't often make it apparent, because a lot of the story is about what actually makes them similar. And there's an ambulance driving by. At least I assume that's an ambulance. Sounds like one, at least. Might be a fire truck, actually, because those always come in pairs, and I just heard a second one. Anyway, diversion aside, I've already mentioned there's plenty of variety within my cast. However, the story still talks about what it is that makes them that brings them together, and for the most part, that is the fact that they are within this military university setting. So yeah, there is a common core of properties and of historical attributes or background attributes that they have, but they still they do still have their own distinctive features in when those stand out in in various moments, various ways. Anyway, moving ahead, another one from Trope Terrain. Where do loyalties lie? Okay, this is a somewhat better question. I've already mentioned a lot of my characters are from a military background, and I think it's safe to say that their loyalty lies, for the most part, with their military service, with the oaths they've taken to to ensure that happens. That is, if we're going by broad strokes. Because if you look at individual characters, they will often have individual reasons for for why it is that they do what they do. And I'll use Martha and Elizabeth, two of my leads, as an example. Martha, as I've said, very much embodies a chivalrous archetype, and therefore very much strives to make that a reality and to live up to that ideal. And combined with that is also a specific tradition of military valor, military pageantry, and how exactly it is she is supposed to present herself and inspire confidence and respect. With Elizabeth, she is somewhat more neutral in regards to the pageantry. She sees it a lot, on more on a technocratic perspective. On these are the things that need to be done, and and for that reason, she wants to make sure that the things she actually gets done, get done for reasons she herself can look at and consider uh, necessary or generally helpful, you know. And then there are also the bad guys who, for the most part, for now at least, belong to a theocratic fascist organization aimed at expanding its influence and reinstating an even more tyrannical version of the empire that was deposed in the in the series backstory, and their reasons for that are multiple. I won't get into that right now, however. Okay, moving on from Leo Kiran MSC at Leo Kiran. Was your MC ever bullied as a kid? Well, not really. Marfa very much could have done the bullying, but but she never did. Um, Elizabeth, however, she did get some of it. She might have had Marfa around to keep the worst of it away. She still had to bear some of it herself and try to find ways against that. If anything, I would say that Victor has has gone through it the most. Due to being an orphan and therefore facing a lot of shortages in general within his life. So he very much had to build his emotional intelligence within that environment, and that actually comes into play in the first book when he does actually have to face off against some bullies in the in a university setting. Moving on, another one from Hendrik Schoeman. Who is your coolest character? And he went with a very little definition of cool, as in a guy with ice and snow powers. By that definition, I can also point to Elizabeth because, as I said, her element is ice. But if we're talking cool, as in who has a detached attitude that makes them seem more interesting. I think the best. I think Marius might be the one who best fits this description. Him and Helen, actually. They're not exactly a couple. They're a situationship, more or less. And I have to say that they very much admire that swagger with each other, and that is very much mirrored in how it is that they act around and towards each other as well. And moving ahead, another one by Daram Nahal. What is your MC's worst trait? Marfa is occasionally quick to anger, and even though she is mostly diligent, that if she does something in anger, that diligence doesn't exactly melt away, but it bends a little bit, making her rush into things and do them poorly. Elizabeth. I think her failure is that she's a little bit too much in her head, and therefore makes a lot of perhaps unfounded assessments about about people and about situations, and and then when she actually acts on these poor assessments and finds that they are poor, she doesn't she doesn't always know how to most effectively come back from that. That is something that she struggles with a lot of the time. Juliana, or I should say, if it matters, is kind of in the middle between these two, as in she also has a lot of passion, but she also holds she also holds a lot of it back for for a variety of reasons, mostly around trying to make herself seem more appealing to others. And eventually she'll run into crashes where she notices that that both of her drives, and self-repression and cooperation will ultimately end up failing. That's something she has to work around. And Victor's failure is that he is too aloof. He tries too hard to detach himself from situations, and in that context, when he does encounter hardship, um, his approaches don't. He doesn't always know the best way to approach these hardships, and how exactly to make them and how exactly to work with them or around them, or use their conditions, so to speak. Yeah, it's somewhat weird that his time being bullied would have perhaps taught him how to do that better, but that is still something he crashes out against. Next up, another one from Trope Terrain. Any insufferable characters? Characters who are flat out insufferable, I can't really say I have them, because every character is the hero of their own story, and when you look at your cast through that perspective, and when you look at what it is that they want to do, and how they want to get it done, it's actually really hard to find any single character that is actually legit insufferable. There are people IRL who I would consider insufferable, but but I can't really say that about any of my characters, I'm sorry to say. Next up, one from Jessica Grace Wright, at Just Grace Writes. No, that's just okay. She just used a lot of writing related hashtags. It's not a question. Moving on, by Daramna Hall. Which character needs therapy the most? Well, I can pretty safely say it's none of my leads. If anything, from the student body or the cadet body, I think the answer to that would be Claudio. He has some skeletons in his closet that he'd rather keep to himself. Also, funnily enough, Claudia, because yeah, sometimes I somehow have both a Claudio and a Claudia, but they are very different characters. So aside from being a guy and a girl, they are quite different, and they do have to go to therapy for distinctive reasons, for different reasons. Because on the one hand, Claudio is perhaps detached and uninvested in those around him, to an almost chronic degree. Has a lot of issues, maybe a little bit of an imposter syndrome. Whereas Claudia basically has an "it's all about me" thing going. She's she is what one could call a domestic psychopath. She's not going around killing people. She doesn't really intend to cause death, but she does intend to achieve glory or grandeur, and she has no problem being a little bit vicious in order to make that happen. Of the villains, well, it's it's safe to say a lot of them. I haven't really I haven't really fleshed out not enough of them in order to decide who is who. But you don't sign up to an association that is that is willing to kill people if you're if you're entirely well adjusted, unless somehow or I should specify a paramilitary organization, which which the Green Dawn very much is. Next up, from Nicholas J. Ripley at Ripley J. Nick. What is a genre you would love to try out? Maybe romance? I don't know. Saying. Or more than a genre, I would actually like to try a a particular format. I've been interested in screenwriting for a while, but I haven't found the opportunity to really make that happen. Next up, another question from Hendrik Schoman. Who is your best fighter? I'll assume in terms of hand-to-hand combat, and to that end, there are actually plenty of there are plenty of good there are plenty of good options I could pick. I think Cristiano Breno, who is the basketball coach, would be a prime answer in when it comes to that. However, there are okay. My clock just ran out, but I started this question, so I'm gonna finish it. I started answering, so I'm gonna finish. So aside from Cristiano Brennan, there are combat instructors all throughout the university, because students have to be proficient in hand-to-hand combat as well, even though my world relies on magic. And however, I only fleshed out I only fleshed out one instructor who is officially designated as a combat instructor, that being Constance. However, the aforementioned Marius also has also has great proficiency in that field. So if anything, I think these three are the best answers I can give. Anyway, that was it for me. I hope this video wasn't too boring, and thank you for watching all the way through. If you've enjoyed your time with me, well then please like the video, maybe even share it wherever you think other people will also like the video. If there is anything you'd like to add, either to the questions themselves or to or to my answers, that is what the comment section is for. And if you want to see when my next video gets released, well then please subscribe, and ideally also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you notified. My books, or the books of mine that are currently out, the first of my very own Heir to the Empire series, The Next Generation and the Path Not Taken, are available under their respective master links in the description down below, right past my social media links, which I also suggest you check out should you choose to. I also have a second channel where I talk about whatever crosses my mind, really. And so if you want to hear me talk about stuff like how I would write movies, or movie reviews, or watch me play games or whatever have you, that's where you can go and see stuff of mine that isn't related to the to print media or literature. If you want to hear more about my thoughts on print media and literature, then I suggest you stay on this channel and go for my extensive backlog of Q&A videos, such as this one, book reviews mainly, the occasional writing advice, and various connected topics. So yeah, if that sounds interesting to you, go ahead and check that out. If none of the options I presented sound interesting to you, then I suggest you go ahead and do whatever you want the rest of your day, because it is your day after all. And yeah, that was it for me. So until next time, I am Jonathan Taylor, and this has been the Heir's Lair.